not only do we recruit and retain high-quality people, but the way we treat them is cascaded onto the way they treat kids.
Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to another episode of The Path Forward. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez. We're here at TASA Midwinter 2024, Evolve to Solve. I have friend of the show, super guest, Georgetown ISD Superintendent, Dr. Devin Padavil. Devin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Doc. I'm glad to be back here. Represent Georgetown.
Yes, sir. It's been an exciting year, right? It's a bit, so new job, new community. Tell me why Georgetown?
Last I was superintendent in Taylor. I loved Taylor ISD. I'm excited for the future there. And this is going to sound kind of weird, but every time I've had the opportunity to lead, I can just picture something about what this place or this school or this organization can look and feel like in 3 to 5 years. And when the opportunity came up to lead in Georgetown, I had that same feeling. I think the future is really exciting for Georgetown. I think the community is evolving very quickly. It's increasingly diverse, and I think the needs of what it takes to educate every student are going to change very rapidly, and honestly, I feel like that's a skill set I bring to the table. So I wanted to be part of that conversation, knowing it's going to be a lot of challenges and a lot of triumphs and successes.
You mentioned like you have a vision, right? You have a feeling about where a district can go. Mm-hmm. So when you think about Georgetown, what's the vision? What do you see in the future, 3 to 5 years of the potential?
I always try to think through the perspective of a mom or dad.
Okay.
And what do mom and dads want for their kids? So, I think the thing they want is they want to know their kids are going to high-performing schools.
Yes.
And what does it mean to be high-performing? Well, I'm the king of made-up statistics.
Are you?
But the made-up statistic I'd give you is high-performing is 70% feeling. It's like the culture, right?
Okay.
And it's 30% evidence. It's what we're showing you in terms of student performance, the things our kids are accomplishing. And so I think it's both. It's generating that great feeling from schools. Like, these are people that care about our kids, which Georgetown brings in spades. But it's also the evidence. Like, let's take students from where they are and see that they're growing.
Right.
And that really aligns to, and maybe we'll get to talk about this later, but, my sense of purpose.
Sure.
And my core values. Like, my sense of purpose is to see every child grow as my own. My core values are authenticity, growth, service, evidence, and caring. And so that just feels like really on brand for me.
It's all aligned, right?
All aligned, that's right.
I love it. I love it. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges, right? Y'all are growing fast, this whole area.
That's right.
So when you look on the horizon, you've been able to visit schools, you're hearing what parents want, your staff wants. What are you doing about growth? Is there anything that you have to be thinking a couple years down the road to make sure you're planning for growth?
Yeah, so by the time this video or podcast comes out, we're going to be calling for a bond in Georgetown.
Oh, wow.
We are the fastest growing community in the country right now. And when you look at the map of Georgetown ISD, we're barely 50% developed. So there's nothing but room to grow in what's a real pretty area of Texas, right? And close to the Austin metro area, all the right ingredients are there. And so when we talk about growth, I was a principal of a 6A high school. So I'm used to very big schools.
Yes.
But the community of Georgetown has told us they want appropriately sized schools. And I have a student advisory council, and I actually put it in front of them. These are high school kids, juniors and seniors.
I'm interested to hear their perspective.
So I asked them, I said, should we let these schools get big? And why? Why shouldn't we let them get larger?
5,000, 4,000, yeah.
Well, maybe 3,000. Let's not go
well, I went
far.
to North Shore, so we were huge. Yeah, it was massive. So
yeah. So here's what the kids told us, and this really hit home. The students told us, when a school gets to be such a large size, it doesn't matter how many assistant principals you add, how many counselors, we start to feel like a number and not like a human being anymore,
wow.
right? And just think through the perspective of a principal, right? As a principal, you want to get to know your kids. You can know 2,000 kids, but it gets harder with every 200 kids you add to really know that kid, their family. Are they having a good day, having a bad day? Like, what are all the tells?
What sports are they involved in? What's their extracurriculars? Right. You're right. That 2,000, that's a great point. That 2,000 mark is about the threshold. My high school, that was principal, 1,200, 1,500, somewhere in there, and I knew all of them. But you're right. As it starts creeping up, you're now starting to, those faces in the crowd almost. So that your students want to keep it small.
That's right.
Is there a sweet spot in their mind, like, hey, it'd be good to be, or it's a feeling that they have as they're growing?
It's a feeling. Some of it goes into the whole 5A UIL athletics and fine arts versus 6A.
Of course.
But it's more that feeling of keeping schools, the school population to the size of the building, right? Once you start adding portable buildings and
nobody likes that, yeah.
Stretching classes and making things that were never intended to be a classroom, that's when it starts to feel like we've outgrown what we were given.
How do you go about messaging the need to the community, right? Because you guys were successful in Taylor with the bond, but sometimes there's opposition, and not saying good or bad, but when there's a need, how do you show the community, like, look, we're great stewards of the money, we have this need, and you're investing in our community?
Yeah, so, just to speak just the first comments that come to my mind, I always like to think of every community member or taxpayer as like a shareholder in an investment in the community, right? And that's what public schools do. What we're doing is we are taking these this community's children, and we're trying to give them a learning experience that's going to create great citizens for the future of Georgetown, Texas.
Yeah.
And also give families the best experience possible so their kid's successful after high school, right? So that's part of it. And then when we think about the school experience, I think all of us can really connect with the idea that overcrowded schools make that job harder. And so let's give these schools and our students the best possible experience in high-quality facilities, knowing that the other thing we have to deliver on is the high-quality learning experiences, both.
Yep. What did you learn about yourself? Taylor ISD, you go into a new job.
Yeah.
Within that time frame, what are some things you learned about yourself and about your leadership?
The thing I bring to, I always tell people the best attribute about Devin Padavil is I bring urgency and intensity to the idea of student growth, learning, and progress. And the biggest deficit I bring to the table is I bring urgency and intensity, right? And so, for people that have had roles like us, it's kind of like, let's go all the way back. The reason a principal got to be a principal is they were probably a really good teacher, right? But they can no longer go and teach. And then if you're like an assistant superintendent over principals, you were probably a pretty good principal. But you can't just go in and say, well, if you just do this, do that, it would work out perfect, right? And then now that I'm superintendent, especially in a larger district, the greatest capital I bring to the table is helping other people grow, even if that's a long process, even if there are moments that are uncomfortable. It's leading through other leaders so they are performing at their best and doing great work for the people they serve. So that has been the thing I've learned about myself, is learning to shift into asking good questions, holding people accountable, clear expectations, so that other people can lead and I can take the 20,000-foot view on the organization.
I wish I was as self-reflective as you are, because I'm the same way. Like, let's get it done, come hell or high water, right? But I think that's a wiser approach and a wiser perspective. Essentially what you're saying is you're pouring into others so that they can lead and really develop the boots on the ground, the teachers, and support them.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part, and I know you feel this too, is you look at other people's kids and you feel and act like it's your kid.
You do.
And like when it's your kid, there's not much patience on the table.
If it's not good enough for my own child,
that's right.
It's not good enough for anybody's child.
That's right. And so, but the thing is if I just run and gun and tell people what to do, well, after I leave, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? And so what we're doing is we're creating sustainable habits and systems and processes so that the work endures and continues to evolve even after Devin's a distant memory,
So aspiring administrator wants to say, hey, I want to be with that guy. I want to learn from that guy. What do you look for in the next generation of leaders?
The first thing, and you don't have to be perfect on this, you have to have a focus on what it means to be an instructional leader. Okay. Even if you haven't totally figured it out, you know that this isn't just about feeling good. This is about students improving in their outcomes. And then the second thing is you have to be confident but humble, right? You have to have this unreasonable belief in yourself as a leader.
Yes.
Right? And like even when there's moments of self-doubt and I don't know if I can make it through this, you have to have this unreasonable belief that you can figure it out.
It's almost bordering on, and it's not arrogance, but it's everybody else is like, oh my gosh, and you're like, no, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Yes.
There's no such thing as not making it to the other side of a problem.
Right.
An unreasonable belief you can figure it out, but humble enough to reach out to people and be like, man, I'm really struggling with this.
Yeah.
Can you help me out? I feel like I'm doing this, but can you give me some feedback? And just being vulnerable enough to talk to people and because, it'll be like conversation number 4. You're like, I didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I know I can figure this out.
Who's your go-to? You're struggling with something and you're thinking, I need to get a sounding board. Who's your go-to?
Oh, honestly, anyone who is willing to be as humble or vulnerable with me as I am with them, I'll just tell them everything. Jenny Netherland out of Granger, she's like been one of my best friends for decades. She's an awesome leader. Charles Dupree, who I worked with in Fort Bend, he's a great guy to call. Greg Gibson, who is superintendent in Cibolo Shirts.
Yeah, I know Greg, yeah.
Yeah, I call him often. Michelle Cavazos, who's in Gregory, Portland.
Sure.
Amazing leader, right? And so each one of these people brings a different skill set to the table. So I know there's certain things, like I'll hear one perspective from Charles Dupree, and if I call Greg Gibson, he'll give me another take on it. And then I sit with it, and I'm like, all right, I don't know what I want to do.
Sure.
I'm not going to just follow someone's template because I got to do what's authentic to me.
Yes, you have to lean into who you are. One of the things that I learned, and I would say the hard way you are who you are. You've got to lean into your strengths. Doesn't mean you don't take counsel, but at the end of the day, you can't be someone else.
Yeah.
I can't go up there and emulate some of the greatness that I see. So I can't replicate that. I got to be me.
We were in the aspiring superintendents panel yesterday, and one of the superintendents I was sitting next to was talking about like developing a good relationship with the board, and she said, "Oh yeah, I have the board members and their spouses over for dinner, and we socialize and hang out." And I told the crowd, that's awesome she does that. I couldn't do that. That's not on brand for me, Like, we'll go get coffee and hang out, but we don't need to spend all evening with each other because that's going to get super awkward.
Did you hear that Georgetown free invite to Dr. Padavil's house?
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean,
hopefully you like Hot Pockets. That's what we're having.
That would be like they all walk in, they're like, huh? You're just like, the microwave keeps dinging.
Yeah.
Like, here you go.
Yeah.
The best I've ever seen, and I can't do like Martha, Salazar, like her with people in the board. Like, she genuinely loves everybody. I'm like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
Like, you're right. I can't do that. I try to take pieces of that and fit it in where it's needed. But you're right. Not everybody's going to have your board over. But and he did eat Hot Pockets, but you have to have that strong
Well,
relationship.
I will tell you, though, one of my core values is caring about people.
Yeah.
I care about people, but my love language isn't going to be, let's hang out at my house and eat dinner. And
Pockets.
yeah, and that's just not on brand for me,
Yeah.
right? So, when I talk about, like, caring about people, I just always think about the fact that these people who I serve with, regardless of role, they are human beings first.
Sure.
This is someone's mom, someone's dad, someone's brother, sister, spouse, and that's who they are. That's who they are, right? And we come together for 8 to 15 hours a day to take care of other people's kids.
Mm-hmm.
But that's secondary to the person we really are, right?
Sure.
So I always want to, every time, regardless if it's a conflict, a great moment, whatever, I always want to remember, this is a human being, and at the end of our lives, and we're reflecting back on our lives, we're going to remember the human being aspects. Before, what was it like that one year when I worked at this job and we were working on that project? Like, I'm not even going to think about that,
I get the sense that we're similar in this way. Do you feel a great weight about that? Meaning, it's very serious. You take it very personally that your kids are doing well, that your teachers are doing well, that your staff. It affects you because you feel like you are responsible in a lot of ways to do that.
Yeah. The weight, if you want to call it that, is sometimes it feels like a lot.
Yeah.
And but I always try to remind myself that for leaders, pressure is part of the package.
Sure.
Right? This is part of the package. This is what I signed up for.
Leadership has a price.
Right. It has a price. And I know to some degree this price is taking a toll on my personal health, my well-being, my time, the time I get to spend with my own family.
Yes.
But I believe in this so much that I'm willing to pay that price. And the hard thing I have to remind myself is to find ways to take care of me. Like, and when I say take care of me, like, I'm not going to do a spa day. That's off-brand again. But I just want to, things I do, like this morning before I came in, I did a 10-minute meditation, just breathing, right? I journal a lot, and I always try to remind myself, if it feels like I'm in the weeds, I need to zoom out, just detach from the situation so I can just, like, think about it from a, larger perspective, right? And then come back in and be like, all right, let's figure this out, because if I put something off for a little bit, if it's not urgent, if it's not like the kitchen's on fire, then I have time to just get perspective, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It didn't feel as intense as it did 2 hours ago.
Because you're a fixer, right? I mean, your intensity, you bring urgency, so you want to solve. What can I solve for? That's a great perspective to take a look, take a breath, and before I move quickly, which probably in your nature like mine, like, let's solve it. Let me get a perspective on it and slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
How does your wife help you stay humble? What I mean by that is, right, like, in this role, it's a respected role, but when you're at the house, is there anything she's like, hey, man, you're at the house, like, is there anything, or, when y'all are on date night or something, how does she support you but also keep you grounded?
I wouldn't say I necessarily get called out on this, but something I've tried to work on in all aspects of my life, not just my personal life, is being present in the moment, right? Like if I'm talking to you, I don't want to be thinking about like that to-do list that's in my notebook right over there and this bond we got to work on and who I need to meet with today and how can I get over to this thing. I want to be present with you, right? And then, so like a little trick I pulled out was I scheduled time to worry about the future, right? Like today at 3 o'clock, I'm going to worry about the future, right? But I'll write it down in the morning, but I don't want to think about it when I'm trying to be present with you or with my family or whoever else, right? And, something that I think makes me decent at what I do is I am very good at thinking about the future, right? Like, how can this turn out? What's in front of us? What are the challenges in front of us? But the deficit is it keeps me from being present with people, right? So I need to separate it so I can be present with people, because that's how I can best demonstrate caring for someone, right?
Yes.
If I give you my time and my attention, then you know I care.
I was heard, right? You heard me. You invested in me, regardless of all the other things that you got, going on, swirling around you. I scheduled time to worry about the future.
That's right.
I love that.
3 o'clock today. Maybe worry is too strong a word. I view with concern. It sounds a little more professional.
Man, I should have had you as my branding coach, man. You got the way you articulate is way better than I do. What else do you want? Is there anything else you want to hit or that you can think of that we didn't cover? I mean,
can I talk about purpose real quick?
Absolutely. Yes.
So, anytime a new superintendent comes in, they want to know, like, hey, what's your vision? What are the things you want to do? And I always feel like that's a little bit of a trap, because it's not about me, it's about us. And so something that's really important to me, authenticity is one of my core values. And so my purpose statement, and this is an activity we all went through, is in Georgetown, is every child grows as my own. Well, that's mine. But I want every leader I get to work with to know with clarity what's their purpose. And you don't got to be perfect. You just got to be consistent to that.
Right.
Just lead through that. Like, you are cloaked in that purpose because that's who you are. And as long as you are leading through your purpose and as consistent to that as possible, you're good. Like, I mean, in this job, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. But I just want people to be able to say at the end of the day, well, he was consistent.
Yeah.
He always said he wants every child to grow as his own. So none of this stuff is a surprise.
Right. I love that. Finish this sentence. 3 years from now, Georgetown ISD will be what?
3 years from now, Georgetown ISD is continued to be viewed as the cornerstone of the community, the public schools. Georgetown ISD is delivering high performance in terms of culture and learning experience to the kids and families of Georgetown. And we are able to take care of our staff to such a degree that not only do we recruit and retain high quality people, but the way we treat them is cascaded onto the way they treat kids. And our kids are getting such a great learning experience because we take care of our people.
And you just made me want to move there.
We are hiring, sir.
Honey, we may have to downsize. It's a little different than Houston. I love it, man. And hey, I appreciate you taking time to share and talk about your journey. Because I wanted to get more when I was in Taylor with you. I know we got a limited amount of time, but I've been following you and rooting for you, and I think the sky's the limit for not only Georgetown ISD, but you and your staff and all the kids.
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc, and I just want to thank you for how you support public education in so many fronts. And I love watching your podcast because I learn from other superintendents when they're talking. So.
No, I do too, and every time I was like, man, that's a gem. That's why I always say, hey, we got to cut that because that's something I never thought about like that. So, no, always a pleasure. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Before I let you go, are there any socials you want to plug or anything about Georgetown ISD if somebody's interested in learning more?
Yeah, I mean, they can go to our website. We encourage people to get registered to vote because we have a bond in May. And then
primaries in March?
Primaries in March. And then the voting day is May 4th for that school bond. And anyone who wants to connect with me, I'll tell you, any leader, whoever reaches out to me, I'll do whatever I can to help you. I mean, I just truly believe that the way I continue to thrive as a leader is helping other people. So you can follow me at Devin Padavil on Twitter.
Awesome. Yeah, and you are a man of your word because anytime I've ever just tweeted anything or reached out to you for a question, you respond, almost instantly. So, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for joining us today. And if you like what you heard and saw, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.
Produced by Podcast Architects.